If you can't handle me being in bed with these and your friends, then go. They're real women, not frigid like you, my husband sneered. I smiled coolly. As you wish. By morning, my 3 friends, my husband, and his seal lover all collapsed with identical symptoms. The doctor entered, face grave. I hate to say this, but your Juliet won't suspect anything, Benjamin said to the laptop screen, not hearing me enter our bedroom. She's too frigid to understand what real passion looks like. I stood in the doorway, still in my sensible work clothes, watching my husband coordinate with his CEO and my 3 best friends about using tomorrow's corporate wellness event as their next opportunity. Harper's voice came through clearly. The Ice Queen will probably spend the whole event analyzing data on her phone. They laughed, all 5 of them, while I stood there calculating not the pain of betrayal, but the probability of perfect revenge. The Thursday afternoon light cast long shadows across our bedroom floor, the same bedroom where Benjamin and I had planned our future 7 years ago. Back then, he'd promised we were building something together. I supported his pharmaceutical sales career, woke at 5:30 every morning to prepare his protein shakes and egg white omelets, believing his success would become our success. What I hadn't told him, what I'd never told anyone, was that while making his breakfast, I was also checking my phone for overnight trading alerts. Another 12,000 had accumulated while we slept. My algorithms worked through Asian market hours with the precision of a Swiss watch. The facility screening rooms will be perfect, Isabella was saying through the laptop speakers, her voice carrying that fake therapeutic tone she'd developed since her divorce. The same voice she'd used crying on my shoulder 6 months ago, telling me how lonely she felt. Everyone will be so focused on their health results. No one will notice if people slip away, Sophia chimed in with her practiced Zen master cadence. And I'll be leading meditation sessions in the West Wing. Perfect cover for anyone who needs to realign their chakras. More laughter. The kind that comes when people think they're so clever, so above consequences. I shifted slightly, my sensible flat silent on the hardwood floor. Benjamin still hadn't noticed me. He was too engaged with his screen, too confident in his deception. His new cologne, the one he'd started wearing 3 months ago, filled the room with a scent I now recognized as the smell of betrayal, Tom Ford Spence. What about Juliet? Mia asked, and I recognized the nervous edge in her voice. The same uncertainty she'd had when I spent 60 hours helping her prepare for her CPA certification. She's supposed to attend tomorrow. Benjamin, you said spouses were strongly encouraged to participate. I'll handle my wife, Benjamin replied, the casual dismissal in his voice more cutting than any insult. She'll show up, get her blood pressure checked, make some spreadsheets about the data, and leave early to run her little algorithms. You know how she is. She treats everything like a math problem waiting to be solved. Harper laughed, a sound like champagne glasses breaking. That's what I love about you, Benjamin. You married a computer and figured out you needed actual women. Actual women. As if my dedication, my loyalty, my careful building of our life meant nothing. As if the 3.8 million portfolio I'd secretly amassed through proprietary trading algorithms was less real than their afternoon affairs. They had no idea that while they called me frigid, I was generating returns that would make Harper's CEO salary look like pocket change. I pulled out my phone, not to check my algorithms, but to send a quick message to Dr. Sarah Winters. Sarah and I had worked together briefly in biomedical analytics before she was blacklisted for exposing how Benjamin's own company had manipulated trial data. She understood how numbers could reveal truths that powerful people wanted hidden. Available for a consultation tomorrow? I typed. Corporate wellness event. Interesting data patterns emerging. Her response was immediate. Always interested in pattern recognition. Send me details. On the laptop screen, I could see all 4 faces clearly now. Harper with her perfect contouring that probably cost more than most people's rent. Isabella wearing the designer frames I helped her pick out after her divorce. Sophia in one of her flowing tops that screamed spiritual but make it expensive. And Mia, her face partially obscured but her distinctive rose gold watch visible, the one she'd bought to celebrate passing her CPA exam, the exam I'd coached her through. The best part, Benjamin continued, warming to his theme, is that Juliet actually thinks these are her friends. She has lunch with Isabella every week, does yoga with Sophia, still mentors Mia on career development. He shook his head with false pity. She's so focused on her data and patterns, she can't see the pattern right in front of her face. The pattern. He was right about that. At least, there was definitely a pattern here, but it wasn't the one he thought. I remembered last month's company dinner, how Harper's hand had lingered on Benjamin's shoulder while complimenting my dedication to supporting his career, how Isabella, Sophia, and Mia had all seemed unusually interested in Benjamin's promotion prospects, asking questions about his travel schedule, his client meetings, his bonus structure. I'd catalogued these moments the way I catalogued market anomalies, data points that didn't quite fit the expected model. Tomorrow's going to be perfect, Harper declared with CEO finality. The wellness screenings provide cover. The facility is large enough for privacy, and everyone will be so focused on their health metrics, they won't notice anything else. Speaking of metrics, Benjamin said, glancing at his watch, the Rolex he bought himself for his last promotion, I should go. Juliet will be home soon, and I need to remind her about tomorrow's event. Play the devoted husband encouraging his wife to take care of her health. The devoted husband. The phrase sat in the air like a mathematical impossibility, an equation that couldn't balance. I backed out of the doorway silently, returning to the kitchen where I'd left my work bag. I pulled out my laptop and began what looked like work, but was actually something far more interesting, accessing the wellness events participant list, the screening protocols, the facility layout. My phone buzzed with another trading alert. A successful position that netted another 8,000. The numbers flowed across my screen in perfect patterns, predictable and logical. Unlike people, algorithms didn't lie. They didn't pretend to be your friend while sleeping with your husband. They didn't mock you in group chats named after your supposed coldness. Benjamin emerged from the bedroom 10 minutes later, his face composed into the mask of concerned husband. Hey honey, you're home early. Migraine again? I looked up from my laptop, my expression as neutral as a balance sheet. Just wanted to finish some analysis in peace. How was your day? Good. Good. Actually, I wanted to remind you about tomorrow's wellness event. Harper's really hoping for full participation, especially from spouses. You'll come, right? The wellness event where they planned to use health screenings as cover for their continued affairs. Where my 3 best friends and his CEO would laugh about the Ice Queen being too absorbed in data to notice anything. Of course, I replied, my voice steady as compound interest. I wouldn't miss it for anything. The wellness event loomed tomorrow, but tonight Benjamin apparently decided to give me the full presentation. He followed me from the kitchen to the living room, his confidence growing with each step, mistaking my silence for submission rather than calculation. You deserve to know everything, he said, settling into his leather recliner while I remained standing by the window. The streetlights outside cast geometric patterns on our hardwood floor, and I focused on those clean lines while he began his confession with the casual tone of someone explaining a merger acquisition. Harper and I started 6 months ago. She saw potential in me that you never did. She makes me feel powerful, Juliet, like I could run that entire company someday. He paused, waiting for a reaction that didn't come. Isabella happened naturally. She was vulnerable after her divorce, and she needed someone who understood her needs. Real emotional needs, not just spreadsheet solutions. My fingers traced the window frame while he continued his inventory of infidelity. Each woman apparently filled some void I'd created through my supposed coldness. Sophia brought passion and spontaneity to his structured life. Mia appreciated his guidance in ways that went beyond professional mentoring. He laid out these affairs with the same methodical precision he used for pharmaceutical sales pitches, complete with value propositions and benefit analyses. "We have a WhatsApp group," he said, pulling out his phone with disturbing eagerness. "Want to see what your friends really think of you?" He held the screen toward me, showing the group name clearly, the Ice Queen's Court. The latest message thread made my chest tighten, not from hurt, but from the sheer audacity of their coordination. Harper had sent a photo from last week's yoga class, one where I'd stood in the background adjusting my mat while she and Sophia posed in the foreground. The caption read, "The Queen remains oblivious to her subjects' real activities." There's more. Benjamin scrolled through weeks of messages, each swipe revealing another layer of deception. Isabella had screenshotted our lunch conversations where I'd offered advice about rebuilding after divorce, adding laughing emojis and comments about my complete cluelessness. Sophia shared meditation quotes she'd sent me about trust and friendship, followed by explicit details about her Tuesday afternoon sessions with Benjamin. Mia had forwarded my mentoring emails with annotations mocking my earnest career guidance. I walked to my home office without a word, leaving Benjamin holding his phone in the air like evidence in a trial where he was somehow both prosecutor and defendant. My hands remained steady as I powered on my computer, though something deep in my chest felt like it was fracturing along predetermined fault lines. The digital breadcrumbs were everywhere once I knew where to look. Isabella's Instagram, which she'd given me access to during her divorce proceedings when she needed someone to help document her ex-husband's spending, told a different story than her tears on my shoulder. Photos tagged at restaurants during our supposed girls' nights showed timestamps that matched Benjamin's client dinners. Her stories, which she thought disappeared after 24 hours, had been archived in my systematic way of preserving data. 3 months of deception cataloged in metadata. Sophia's meditation app, which we'd connected for accountability partners, revealed location data that contradicted every wellness retreat and spiritual workshop she'd claimed to attend. The app showed her at the Marriott downtown during her Tuesday energy healing certification classes. The same Marriott where Benjamin's expense reports showed regular pharmaceutical client meetings. The precision of their lies would have been admirable if it weren't so pathetic. Mia's professional calendar remained synced to my phone from when I'd helped her organize her CPA study schedule. The gaps in her timeline aligned perfectly with Benjamin's travel schedule. Every urgent client deadline that prevented our coffee meetings corresponded with his early returns from business trips. The woman I'd spent 60 hours tutoring had been using my own organizational systems to coordinate affairs with my husband. My fingers flew across the keyboard, creating spreadsheets that mapped their deception with temporal precision. Not because I needed the visual proof, the pattern was clear, but because treating betrayal as data points somehow made it manageable. Each timestamp became a coordinate. Each lie plotted on a graph that showed the systematic infiltration of my life. The WhatsApp messages were the most revealing. Benjamin had given me his phone to hold during last month's company dinner while he gave a presentation. I'd noticed the notifications but hadn't investigated. Now, with his messages synced to his tablet that we shared for household management, I could see everything. Harper discussing me with corporate efficiency. The perfect corporate wife supports her husband, never questions the late meetings. Too blind to see what's right in front of her. It's almost too easy. Isabella's faux concern, I feel bad sometimes. She was so supportive during my divorce. But then I remember how cold she is, how she turned my emotional crisis into a project to be managed. She deserves this. Sophia's spiritual justification, the universe brought us together for a reason. Juliet's blocked chakras prevent her from experiencing true intimacy. We're actually helping Benjamin find his authentic self. Mia's gratitude with a twist, she taught me everything about professional development. Now Benjamin's teaching me about personal development. It's poetic, really. The cruelty wasn't just in the betrayal. It was in the mockery. They'd taken my strengths and reframed them as weaknesses. My analytical nature became emotional frigidity. My loyalty became blindness. My support became enabling. They'd constructed an entire narrative where I was the villain in my own life story. I found a video Sophia had sent last Tuesday. She was in my yoga spot at the studio, wearing the leggings I'd recommended, demonstrating poses while saying, "This one's called Deceiving Dog." Perfect for our situation, right? The group's response was a cascade of laughing emojis and comments about my flexibility being limited to Excel formulas. My phone buzzed with a text from Isabella, "Coffee tomorrow after the wellness event? I need to talk about something personal." The normalcy of it, the casual maintenance of our fake friendship, made my jaw clench. She was scheduling our regular coffee date for after she planned to sneak away with my husband during health screenings. Another message from Sarah Winters appeared, reviewed the wellness event protocols. Interesting screening parameters. The stress test results should be particularly revealing. Want to discuss pattern recognition strategies? I closed the laptop and returned to the living room where Benjamin waited with the satisfaction of someone who'd just delivered a devastating presentation. He'd moved to the couch, legs spread wide, owning the space like he owned the narrative of our dissolution. "So now you know," he said. "The question is, what are you going to do about it? Cry, scream, beg me to choose you?" He leaned forward with manufactured concern. "I know this is hard for someone like you to process. You're not equipped for emotional complexity." I sat in the chair across from him, my posture straight, hands folded. The migraine from earlier had transformed into something else, a crystalline clarity that made everything sharp and precise. "I'm going to the wellness event tomorrow." He blinked, clearly not expecting such a mundane response. "That's it? That's all you have to say? What would you prefer, Benjamin? Should I perform devastation for you, give you and your court something else to laugh about in your group chat?" I pulled out my phone, checking my trading algorithms with the same attention I'd give any Thursday evening. Another position had closed successfully, 4,700 gained. I'll attend the event. I'll get my screening. I'll support Harper's initiative like a good corporate wife. His confusion was almost comical. This wasn't the script he'd prepared for. "You're not going to fight for our marriage? With what weapons? Emotion, passion, all those things you've determined I lack?" I stood, smoothing my sensible skirt. "You've made your position clear. You have a CEO who makes you feel powerful and 3 women who fulfill needs I apparently can't. The data doesn't support further investment in this particular venture." The next morning arrived with deceptive normalcy. Benjamin left for work early, kissing my cheek with the same mechanical precision he'd used for years. Unaware that everything had shifted in the space between yesterday and today, I waited until his car disappeared around the corner before pulling out the business card I'd kept hidden in my desk drawer for 3 years, Dr. Sarah Winters, biomedical analytics consultant. The woman who'd lost everything for telling the truth about Benjamin's industry. Sarah suggested meeting at a small cafe downtown, one of those places that served fair trade coffee and attracted freelancers with laptops rather than pharmaceutical executives with expense accounts. When I arrived, she was already there, hunched over a stack of papers, her auburn hair pulled back in the same practical ponytail she'd worn during our brief overlap at MedData Solutions. She looked up as I approached, and I saw recognition flicker across her face, followed by something else, understanding. The exhaustion around her eyes spoke of battles fought against systems designed to protect people like Benjamin and Harper. Systems that crushed whistleblowers while rewarding those who played by corrupt rules. "Juliet Thornton," she said, not as a question, but as confirmation. I wondered when someone from that world would reach out. I sat down, ordering a simple black coffee while she studied me with the intensity of someone who'd learned to read people as carefully as datasets. "You exposed the Meridian trial manipulation 3 years ago. Benjamin's company was involved in the cover-up, and now you're married to one of their star salespeople." She leaned back, fingers wrapped around her mug. "That must be complicated." "It's about to become significantly less complicated." I pulled out my phone, showing her the wellness event invitation. Harper Blackwood is launching this initiative tomorrow. Benjamin's been instrumental in organizing it. Sarah's expression shifted as she read through the details. Comprehensive health screenings, stress assessments, biometric data collection. That's ambitious for a corporate wellness program. It's meant to be their cover, I explained, keeping my voice level despite the acid churning in my stomach. Benjamin, Harper, and 3 other women are using it as an opportunity to continue their affairs while appearing to promote employee health. She set down her coffee slowly, processing this information with the same methodical approach she'd once applied to clinical trials. And you want to do what exactly? I want the truth to matter for once. These screenings, the medical data they're collecting, in the right hands, with proper context, they could reveal more than anyone expects. Sarah's eyes lit up with something that wasn't quite hope, but perhaps its cousin, possibility. Stress hormones don't lie. Neither do anxiety markers. When people think their secrets might be exposed, their bodies betray them in measurable ways. Over the next hour, she outlined her network of medical professionals who'd been pushed to the margins for refusing to compromise their ethics. Nurses who'd reported falsified data and found themselves unemployable. Lab technicians who'd questioned contaminated samples and lost their certifications. Doctors who'd refused to prescribe unnecessary medications and watched their practices crumble. They'd be very interested in conducting legitimate health screenings, Sarah said, sliding a list of names across the table. Completely above board, following all protocols, just with particular attention to stress-related biomarkers. When I returned home that afternoon, Benjamin was in his study, practicing his wellness presentation. His voice carried through the house with salesman enthusiasm as he rehearsed statistics about employee productivity and healthcare cost reduction. I stood in the hallway, listening to him describe how Isabella would oversee mental health resources, how Sophia's mindfulness sessions would reduce workplace stress, how Mia's financial wellness workshops would help employees manage healthcare expenses. This is about investing in our people, he practiced, his tone hitting that perfect note of corporate sincerity, because healthy employees are successful employees. The irony was suffocating. Here was my husband building a platform for public health while privately destroying the health of our marriage. Each of his co-conspirators positioned as wellness experts while participating in the least healthy behavior imaginable. That evening, I sent Harper an email from my professional account, the one linked to my data analyst position. I'd love to contribute to the Wellness Initiative's data analysis. Pattern recognition and statistical modeling are my specialties, and I believe I could help demonstrate the program's effectiveness through quantitative metrics. Her response came within minutes, effusive with the kind of false warmth that made my skin crawl. Juliet, what a wonderful offer. We'd be thrilled to have your expertise. Your analytical skills would be invaluable in showing ROI and employee engagement metrics. She attached participant lists, vendor contracts, facility layouts, and screening protocols. Everything I needed, handed over with the casual confidence of someone who saw me as background furniture in my own life. The supportive wife trying to contribute to her husband's success, nothing more. I established my base of operations in a small office downtown, leased 6 months ago under the LLC I'd created for my trading activities. Benjamin had no idea it existed, just as he had no idea about the magnitude of my investment portfolio or the algorithms generating wealth while he slept. The space was sparse but functional, multiple monitors, encrypted drives, secure internet connection, everything necessary for what Sarah called data archaeology. We met there weekly, reviewing medical protocols with the attention of generals planning a campaign. Sarah brought research on how deception manifested in biological markers, elevated cortisol, irregular heart rate variability, specific patterns in blood pressure fluctuation. Her network of medical professionals contributed their expertise, each one eager to participate in something that felt like justice rather than compliance. The beauty of legitimate testing, Sarah explained during our third meeting, is that we're not fabricating anything. Every result will be accurate, properly documented, and medically sound. We're simply ensuring that the data tells its complete story. She introduced me to Dr. Patricia Chin, an emergency physician who'd been sidelined after reporting insurance fraud at her previous hospital. Dr. Chin understood the importance of presentation, how the same test results could be interpreted through different lenses depending on context and emphasis. When people are hiding something significant, Dr. Chin explained, their bodies keep score. The stress of maintaining deception creates measurable physiological responses. We'll simply be thorough in our documentation. There was also Marcus Rodriguez, a lab technician who'd lost his position after refusing to alter contamination reports. He would handle the blood work processing, ensuring every sample received meticulous attention. Numbers don't lie, he said with quiet intensity. People do, but numbers never do. The team Sarah assembled shared more than professional expertise. They carried the weight of being punished for honesty in systems that rewarded deception. Each had paid a price for refusing to compromise their integrity. And now they saw an opportunity to balance those scales. Meanwhile, I maintained my role perfectly. I attended planning meetings for the wellness event, took detailed notes on logistics, created spreadsheets tracking participant enrollment. Harper praised my thoroughness while Benjamin smirked at what he considered my predictable obsession with organization. The Ice Queen's in her element, I overheard him tell Isabella during a planning call I wasn't supposed to hear. Give her data to analyze, and she's happy. She has no idea what's really happening. Their confidence was remarkable, really. The way they moved through the following days as if I were sleepwalking through my own life, blind to everything happening around me. I kept my routine intact with mathematical precision. Every morning at 5:30, I prepared Benjamin's breakfast while checking my overnight trading gains on my phone. Scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast, fresh juice, normal, predictable, exactly what they expected from the Ice Queen. At the company fundraiser that weekend, Harper draped herself across Benjamin like an expensive scarf, her fingers tracing patterns on his sleeve while making direct eye contact with me. They wanted me to see. They all did. The thrill for them wasn't just the affairs, it was performing them in front of the oblivious wife. Juliet, you must be so proud of Benjamin, Harper said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. He's been absolutely instrumental in making this wellness initiative happen. I smiled, the kind of expression I'd perfected over years of client meetings. Benjamin's always been dedicated to his work. Sometimes I'd barely see him with all his late meetings and weekend preparations. The slight pause before her response told me everything. She was wondering if I knew, if that comment held hidden meaning. But then Benjamin laughed, too loud and too quick. That's my Juliet, always understanding about work demands. Isabella approached with 2 glasses of wine, handing me one while air-kissing my cheek. The same cheek she'd cried against 6 months ago during her divorce. We still on for yoga tomorrow morning? Sophia's teaching that new hot flow class. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, taking a sip of wine I didn't want. Though I might need to leave early. I've been researching some interesting patterns in health insurance claims. A friend of mine discovered her husband's affair when she noticed unusual billing patterns. Apparently, certain medications can be quite revealing. Isabella's hand trembled slightly, wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim. That's terrible for your friend. I mean, oh, she's grateful now, I said. Says the data never lies, even when people do. I watched Isabella exchange glances with Sophia across the room. But I'm sure that's not relevant to anyone we know. During Monday's yoga class, I positioned myself directly behind Sophia, matching her poses with precise mimicry while she led the session. Halfway through, during a particularly challenging balance pose, I mentioned casually, I've been getting into cryptocurrency. The returns are fascinating if you understand the patterns. Sophia wobbled, catching herself against the wall. Cryptocurrency? That seems so complex for someone who isn't technically minded. You'd be surprised what people can learn when they pay attention, I said, holding my tree pose perfectly still. Benjamin thinks I'm too focused on traditional investments, but I've been building quite a portfolio. Sometimes the smartest money moves are the ones nobody sees coming. The entire class could hear us, and I watched Sophia's face cycle through emotions as she tried to determine if I was threatening or oblivious. Benjamin must have mentioned something about my supposed ignorance regarding finances. The seed of doubt was planted. That evening, Mia called about tax preparation, her voice artificially bright. Just wanted to make sure you have all your documents ready. You know, W-2s, investment statements, the usual. Actually, I've been meaning to ask you about cryptocurrency taxation. My portfolio has grown substantially, and I want to ensure everything's properly reported. I paused, letting the words sink in. Benjamin doesn't know the full extent of it. I wanted it to be a surprise for our anniversary. The silence stretched so long, I wondered if she'd hung up. Finally, how substantially are we talking? Oh, enough that I've been considering setting up an LLC for asset protection. You know, the kind of structure that survives major life changes, like divorces, for instance. Tuesday morning, my mother called while I was reviewing Sarah's latest medical protocol documents. Her voice carried that particular tone that meant she'd been thinking about something for days before calling. Juliet, honey, is everything all right? You sound different lately. Just work stress, Mom. The quarter-end reports have been particularly complex. I minimized the spreadsheet showing Benjamin's travel patterns cross-referenced with the others' schedules. Thornton women have a way of handling stress, she said, and I could picture her in her kitchen, phone pressed between shoulder and ear while cooking. We don't break, sweetheart. We bend, and we wait, and when the time is right, we strike back twice as hard. She'd never met Benjamin's mother, but somehow she knew. Mothers always knew. I remember when your father thought he could hide his gambling from me, she continued. I let him think I was oblivious for 3 months while I documented everything. When I finally confronted him with evidence, he had no room to maneuver. Sometimes, honey, the best strategy is letting them think they're winning right until they realize they've already lost. My sister Claire visited Wednesday afternoon, arriving unannounced with coffee and what she called sister intuition. She found me in the home office, surrounded by monitors displaying various spreadsheets. Benjamin seems distracted, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. And your friends are acting weird. Isabella practically ran away when she saw me at the grocery store. Everyone's stressed about the wellness event. It's a big initiative for Harper's company. I continued typing, tracking the asset transfers I'd been executing all week, moving cryptocurrency to hardware wallets, establishing trust structures, creating financial fortifications that would survive any legal assault. Claire studied me with eyes that matched our mother's. You know, when David cheated on me, I knew for 3 months before I said anything. The waiting was the hardest part, but it was also when I felt most powerful, knowing something he didn't know I knew. David was an idiot, I said, finally looking up from my screens. So is Benjamin. She stood, kissing the top of my head. Whatever you're planning, just remember you have backup. Thornton women stick together. Thursday night, I met Sarah for our final coordination. The medical team was ready. The protocols were established, and the testing equipment had been delivered to the venue. Everything calibrated to detect exactly what we expected to find: elevated stress hormones, anxiety markers, the biological signatures of deception under pressure. The beautiful thing about legitimate medical testing, Sarah said, reviewing our checklist one last time, is that it's completely legal and ethically sound. We're following every protocol, every guideline. We're just being very thorough in our analysis. I nodded, closing my laptop after confirming the last of my cryptocurrency transfers. 3.8 million now completely protected from any claim Benjamin or his lawyers might make. The algorithms would keep running, generating wealth he'd never touch, building a future he'd never be part of. Are you ready for tomorrow? Sarah asked, something like concern flickering across her face. I've been ready since the moment he showed me that WhatsApp group, I replied, standing to leave. They want to use health screenings as cover for their affairs. They're about to learn that some things can't be hidden, not even from the Ice Queen they think is too cold to notice her kingdom has been invaded. The morning of April 28th arrived with the kind of perfect spring weather that felt like nature's cruel joke. Sunshine streamed through our bedroom windows as I stood behind Benjamin, adjusting his tie with the same careful precision I'd used for 7 years. My fingers worked the silk into a perfect Windsor knot while he studied himself in the mirror, completely unaware that this would be the last morning of his carefully constructed life. "You're going to do great today," I told him, smoothing his collar. The words came out steady, almost warm. "This wellness initiative will really set you apart in the company." He caught my hands, holding them against his chest in what probably looked like affection to anyone watching. "You know, Juliet, you've been different lately. Calmer. More accepting. Harper thinks you've finally found your place." My place. As if I were a piece of furniture that had finally been arranged correctly in their lives. I smiled, the kind of expression that could mean anything. The morning traffic moved in predictable patterns, just like everything else I'd mapped out. "You'll participate in the screenings, right?" Benjamin asked as we pulled into the parking garage. Harper specifically mentioned wanting full spouse participation. "Shows commitment to the program." "I wouldn't miss it," I replied, gathering my purse with deliberate calm. "I'm very interested in what today will reveal." The corporate building thrummed with orchestrated energy. Harper's team had transformed the main floor into a wellness showcase that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries. Banner displays promoting your health, your future lined the corridors. Registration tables staffed with aggressively cheerful volunteers directed participants to various screening stations. Isabella arrived as we were checking in, dressed in athleisure that screamed expensive but trying not to. She grabbed my arm with practiced familiarity, the same way she had during her divorce when she needed an anchor. "Juliet, isn't this exciting? I've been working on the mental health component for weeks. We're really going to make a difference in people's lives." The irony of her statement might have been funny if it weren't so pathetic. She was about to make a difference, just not the kind she expected. Sophia floated past in flowing designer yoga wear, her wrists jangling with healing crystals that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She pressed her palms together in a namaste gesture when she saw me. "The energy here is absolutely transformative. I can feel the positive vibrations already." "Vibrations can be very revealing," I said, returning her gesture with perfect mimicry. "Sometimes they show us things we didn't expect." Sarah's team moved through the space with quiet efficiency, their medical credentials prominently displayed, their equipment gleaming under the corporate lighting. Dr. Patricia Chin supervised the blood draw station, her expression professionally neutral as she directed participants through the process. Benjamin went first. Of course, he had to lead by example, rolling up his sleeve with the confidence of someone who'd never had a secret worth hiding. "Annual physical was perfect," he told the technician loud enough for others to hear. "Blood pressure of an athlete, cholesterol levels my doctor called exemplary. Physical health is just one component, Dr. Chin said, applying the tourniquet with practiced ease. "Our comprehensive screening includes stress markers, hormone levels, and various other indicators. You'd be surprised what a complete blood panel can reveal." Harper commanded the space near the executive screening area, her power suit impeccable despite the casual wellness theme. She spoke with each participant like they were personally important to her, that CEO magic of making everyone feel seen while actually seeing no one. "Juliet," she called out when she spotted me, "I wanted to personally thank you for your data analysis support. Your spreadsheets have been invaluable in tracking participation metrics." "Numbers tell stories," I replied, watching as she was called for her blood draw. "Sometimes they reveal patterns we didn't even know we were creating." Isabella's screening happened near mine. She chatted nervously with the technician about her yoga practice and clean eating habits. "I haven't had a cigarette in 3 years," completely cut out processed foods, and my stress levels are the lowest they've been since. She caught herself, glancing at me. Since my divorce. Stress is interesting, Dr. Chin commented, labeling Isabella's samples with meticulous care. People often think they're managing it well, but biological markers can tell a different story. The body keeps score even when the mind thinks it's winning. Sophia approached her screening with theatrical calm, explaining to everyone within earshot how her meditation practice had eliminated anxiety from her life. I'm basically stress-proof, she announced. My last wellness coach said I had the biomarkers of someone 10 years younger. Complete health assessment. I just hope everyone's results come back okay, I continued, my tone conversational. I read an article about workplace screenings revealing unexpected conditions. Things people didn't even know they had. Harper's hand tightened on Benjamin's arm. What kind of conditions? Oh, various things. Stress-related disorders, hormone imbalances, markers for anxiety that people had been suppressing. I paused, taking a sip of water. The article said the most interesting part was how certain biological markers could indicate lifestyle factors. Affairs, for instance, create specific stress patterns. Apparently, maintaining deception triggers measurable physiological responses. The silence that followed was delicious. Benjamin's jaw tightened. Harper's professional smile became fixed. Across the room, Isabella dropped her phone, the crash drawing everyone's attention. But I'm sure that's not relevant here, I added, my voice light as spring sunshine. After all, this is about wellness, not secrets. The waiting began immediately after the wellness event. 3 days of manufactured normalcy while Sarah's team processed results with meticulous care. Benjamin went to work each morning, kissed my cheek with mechanical precision, and pretended everything was fine. But I saw the way he checked his phone every few minutes, the slight tremor in his hands when he thought I wasn't looking. Monday morning, May 1st, started like any other day, except for the underlying current of anxiety that Benjamin couldn't quite hide. He left for work early, mumbling something about preparation meetings. I made myself coffee and I knew because Isabella posted on Instagram at 9:45 about leading her morning therapy group, a photo of her serene face with a caption about holding space for healing. 2 minutes later, that serenity shattered. Sarah forwarded me the security footage from the therapy center's waiting room, something she'd arranged through her network of allies who understood the importance of documentation. Isabella stood frozen in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, her face draining of color like water from a broken dam. This has to be wrong, she kept repeating, loud enough for her clients to hear through the supposedly soundproof door. I need to. I have to. Family emergency, medical situation. Her clients exchanged concerned glances as their therapist, the woman who was supposed to guide them through emotional crises, fell apart in front of them. One client, an older woman who'd been seeing Isabella for anxiety, what results? That's impossible. Her followers, nearly 12,000 of them, tuned in, expecting their usual dose of guided tranquility. Instead, they witnessed a spectacular unraveling. The call came 15 minutes into her session. She'd been leading a breathing exercise about releasing what no longer serves you when her phone rang, she'd forgotten to silence it. The first crack in her perfect facade. I need to take this, she told her audience, clearly expecting quick resolution. Sometimes the universe sends us urgent messages. The universe certainly did send a message, just not the kind she expected. Her followers watched in real time as their guru's centered composure shattered like meditation bells thrown against concrete. What do you mean serious concerns? I don't understand. This is about stress tests, but I don't have stress. The comment section exploded with confusion and concern. Is everything okay? Should we call someone? This doesn't seem very zen. Someone screen recorded the meltdown. Within hours, clips would be circulating on social media with hashtags like Anne. But in that moment, Sophia was too panicked to care about her digital footprint. Mia received her call at 11:15 a.m., in the middle of preparing a crucial tax filing for her most important client, a Fortune 500 company with a deadline that afternoon. Her assistant later told me, through the office gossip network that moves faster than fiber optic cables, that Mia simply stood up from her desk, said medical emergency, and walked out. She left the client's confidential documents open on her screen, her computer unlocked, the filing incomplete, the kind of professional negligence that ends careers in the financial sector. The client was furious. Mia's reputation, built over years of meticulous work, evaporated in minutes. Harper's board meeting was scheduled for noon, a quarterly review with investors, the kind of meeting CEOs prepare for weeks in advance. She'd been in the middle of presenting projected earnings when her assistant interrupted with an urgent medical call that couldn't wait. The board members watched their usually unflappable CEO excuse herself to take the call in her office. They could see her through the glass walls, one of those modern architectural choices meant to convey transparency. They watched her pace, her power stance crumbling, her hands shaking as she gripped her phone. When she returned to the boardroom 5 minutes later, she looked like a different person. The company's communications team went into crisis mode, trying to control a narrative they didn't understand. Benjamin's call to me came at 12:30 p.m. I was sitting at the kitchen table, calmly reviewing my investment portfolio on my laptop when his name appeared on my phone screen. Juliet, we need to go to the hospital now. His voice shook with barely controlled panic. What's wrong? Are you hurt? It's the wellness screening. The results. Something's wrong. Isabella called, and Sophia, and they're all. We need to go to Riverside Medical Center immediately. All? Who's all? He paused, caught in his own web. Just some people from the event. Similar results. The doctors want to see everyone immediately. I closed my laptop slowly, letting him hear the deliberate click. By 2 p.m., they'd all arrived, each trying to pretend they didn't know why the others were there. Isabella sat in a corner. Each inhale seemed to catch in her throat. The financial expert trying to quantify a problem that couldn't be solved with mathematics. Harper paced near the reception desk, demanding to speak with whoever was in charge, insisting she needed executive-level medical attention immediately. Even in crisis, she couldn't abandon the CEO persona, though it was clearly failing her. Benjamin sat beside me, his leg bouncing with nervous energy, sweating despite the hospital's aggressive air conditioning. He kept glancing at the others, then at me, trying to gauge if I understood the connection. The careful choreography of their affairs had collapsed into this graceless scramble for medical attention. They all avoided eye contact with each other. The conspirators who'd laughed about the Ice Queen in their group chat now couldn't even look at their co-conspirators. The air was thick with unspoken terror and the smell of industrial disinfectant. At 3 p.m., Dr. Patricia Chin entered the waiting area. She carried a tablet and wore an expression of professional gravity that made everyone sit up straighter. She looked at each of them in turn, her gaze lingering just long enough to make them squirm. I need to speak with all of you about your test results from the wellness screening, she announced, her voice carrying the kind of authority that made argument impossible. In my 20 years of practicing medicine, Dr. Chin continued, her voice cutting through the emergency room's ambient noise, I've never encountered results quite like these from a workplace screening. The patterns are unprecedented. We need to contact all of your intimate partners immediately for testing. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. I watched as 5 faces simultaneously processed the implications, their carefully maintained secrets about to become catastrophically public. Harper's CEO composure cracked first, her hand flying to her throat. Isabella's borrowed meditation beads clattered to the floor. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent waiting room. Within hours, the carefully worded article appeared by evening, concerning patterns emerge from corporate wellness initiative. No names, no specific companies mentioned, but enough details that anyone familiar with Harper's widely publicized program could connect the dots. The digital wildfire spread faster than California brush fires in drought season. By Tuesday morning, speculation dominated LinkedIn feeds and Twitter threads. Anyone know what happened at that big pharma wellness event? Heard something about medical emergencies involving executives. My friend works there, says the CEO hasn't been back since Friday. Isabella's therapy practice unraveled first. Her clients, already shaken, Bennett okay? She abandoned our group session without explanation. Seeking a new therapist, this one seems to be having her own crisis. By Wednesday, her office landlord called about missed rent. The dominoes fell quickly after that: professional liability insurance questions, state board inquiries about patient abandonment, former clients demanding refunds for prepaid sessions. Within 10 days, Isabella Bennett, Ph.D., went from successful therapist to unemployed, her reputation shredded beyond repair. Sophia's digital empire crumbled even faster. The screen recording of her livestream meltdown went viral with cruel efficiency. Meme accounts turned her panic into content, "When your chakras are misaligned," captioned over her frantic pacing. Meditation guru discovers meditation doesn't cure everything became a trending topic. Her brand partnerships evaporated overnight. The essential oil company, the yoga mat manufacturer, the organic tea subscription service, all sent termination notices citing brand safety concerns and misalignment with company values. Her Instagram followers, once 12,000 strong, fled like rats from a sinking ship. The comment section became a graveyard of broken trust. Fraud can't even handle her own stress. Namaste? She tried damage control with a video about working through challenges, but it only made things worse. The internet never forgets, and it rarely forgives. Mia's professional destruction happened with corporate efficiency. The Fortune 500 client she'd abandoned filed a formal complaint with the state accounting board. Her firm conducted an internal review, discovered several other irregularities in her recent work, and terminated her employment with cause, eliminating any severance or unemployment benefits. Harper faced the most spectacular fall. The emergency board meeting convened within 48 hours of her hospital visit. Investors demanded explanations for the CEO's erratic behavior and questionable judgment. The Wellness Initiative, meant to showcase corporate leadership, stock prices dropped 12 in 3 days. Financial news outlets picked up the story: pharmaceutical giant CEO under fire for failed wellness program. The board's vote was unanimous. Benjamin had apparently found enough clarity through his panic to contact Marcus Wellington, a divorce attorney known for aggressive tactics and expensive suits. I accepted the thick envelope I read through the document at the kitchen table, occasionally sipping coffee, while Benjamin hovered nearby like a nervous bird. He'd clearly expected a different reaction: rage, bargaining, perhaps begging. Instead, I pulled out my phone and made a single call. "Patricia Morrison, please. Tell her Juliet Thornton is ready to proceed." Patricia Morrison didn't just handle divorces, she orchestrated them like surgical strikes. She'd represented 3 Fortune 500 executives' wives and had never lost a case. When we met the following Monday for the initial hearing, she arrived with 3 assistants wheeling boxes of documentation. Wellington, sitting beside Benjamin. Wellington's coffee cup trembled, brown liquid splashing across his expense. Thornton's recently terminated employment and his documented financial obligations. "We believe he may actually owe spousal support to my client, not the reverse." The judge's eyebrow. Isabella taught beginners yoga at the community center for $15 an hour, a far cry from her. The last I heard, he was working at his father's hardware store, the golden boy reduced to mixing paint and cutting keys. 8 weeks after that courtroom revelation, I sat in Patricia Moore. No trembling, no hesitation, no dramatic pause for reflection. Just the clean execution of a necessary. The downtown apartment I moved into cost more per month than now, elevated above the streets where I'd been invisible. Not flashy or desperate for attention, but quality that spoke without. The shift in his demeanor was almost comical, suddenly eager to show me every feature, every upgrade, every possibility. My trading algorithms continued their. We met. Intelligence wasn't coldness. It was the ability to see patterns others missed or ignored. Precision wasn't cruelty, it was the refusal to accept comfortable lies. I ran into Isabella last week, Sarah mentioned during another coffee. She's teaching chair yoga at the senior center now. She tried to apologize, said she'd been going through something, that she wasn't herself. She was exactly herself, I replied, watching steam rise from my cup. That's the problem with mirrors. They show what's actually there, not what people pretend to be. The grief came in unexpected waves. Not for Benjamin or the marriage that had been dead long before the reveal, but for the friendships I'd thought were real. Isabella's late-night talks about rebuilding after divorce. Sophia's shared journey toward mindfulness. Mia's gratitude for mentorship. All of it performative, transactional, false. You're mourning relationships that never existed, Sarah said during one particularly difficult morning. That's accessories to deception. 6 months after the divorce finalized, Sarah and I walked to dinner at a new restaurant downtown. October had turned the air crisp, requiring, but I knew that posture, that way of hunching his shoulders when defeated. I stopped walking, studying him with the same detachment I'd applied to analyzing market data. No surge of satisfaction at his fall, no pity for his circumstances, no anger at what he'd done, just the neutral observation of a data point that had moved from one position to another, following predictable patterns of cause and effect. Is that? Sarah started to ask, following my gaze. It had been about accuracy, for if this story of calculated revenge